Hey, you're listening to Stop the Scroll, a social media marketing podcast, and I'm your host, Heidi Schmidt. I'm a social media strategist and agency owner with over 15 years of marketing experiences helping businesses grow online. We'll be diving into what you need to know so that you can show up confidently online without the overwhelm. Get your notebook ready to jot down some amazing marketing gems, and let's dive into it. All right, welcome back to another episode of Stop the Scroll. I am super fired up, and this is a conversation that I've had a lot over the past month, and I saw a thread on Threads, ironically, the other day that just really set me off again. So we're going to talk about why you need to stop copying your competitors and why it's turning off your prospects. And not just turning off your prospects, but like turning off your community, if that makes sense. So it's super important, and it's something that like we're seeing a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of. I hear my clients get mad about it. I hear that, I see people on Threads talking about, I had an influencer local to me. She's here in Maryland, and I absolutely love her stuff. And she posted a thread about how she had a reel go viral. And then a week later, there was another big influencer that popped up on her Explore page who had pretty much copied word for word, maybe like tweaked a couple things, and was also kind of going viral using her content. And here's the thing. When you do that, we are only hurting ourselves. Like, we're only hurting ourselves. Like, we know that competition is healthy. And I tell my clients, and I tell myself this too, because, imposter syndrome is a real thing. And if you're suffering from imposter syndrome and that's why you're going out and copying a competition because you think they're doing it better, your audience and your challenges and your business are completely different from the person down the street. I see this all the time. So I know someone who has a very large Facebook group in my area. It is a group that I'm proud to be a part of, and it feels like, locally at least, there are this is probably an exaggeration, but it feels like there are like half a dozen other groups that have popped up that are similar. And one specific group, like, uses this OG group, is what I'm going to call it, the OG, to promote her group, which is basically attracting the same audience and using some of the same messaging. And it's just kind of a turnoff. It really dilutes your unique voice, your unique brand. And, the same person that I see copying, I feel like I also see her just copying other social media managers. It's kind of one of the things that she does, that she offers. And it's like, listen, social media managers are a dime a dozen. Every single one that I've seen, that I look at, hey, what are they doing differently? How are they messaging differently? Like, how can I improve my messaging? Knowing what my values are, my values being like creativity and authenticity and community and relationships. Like, I very much pride myself and strongly value the relationships that I build with my clients and the trust. That is one of my core values, the trust that my clients place in me. So when, that trust is broken, which I had a whole incident this last week recently with a client, and the audio for reel, that was a whole thing. And it really that's a sidebar. I'm not even going to get into it, but it really knocked me down for a day because I felt terrible about it. Like, it was the wrong audio. The audio that I thought I was using was edited audio and edited out the end of it, and it wasn't edited when it got published, and whoops. But I do look at other social media managers like, hey, they're like a step up from me. What's their messaging? What's their process? What can I garner? What can I learn from people who are doing better than me, if that makes sense? But I would never copy because their audience is probably different from mine. I know who my audience is. I work with a lot of service-based and professional businesses who make a certain amount of money, who struggle with showing up online consistently, and they either want someone to do it for them, which is our done for you services, or they want guidance and understanding to do it better themselves. And that's my consulting packages. But when you copy people, it just shows that you lack your own brand identity. There's no differentiator. Like if you're just copying someone out there, there's nothing unique about you. Someone's already doing that. Like, why do you need to copy someone? I feel like there's something in the head of people who copy that, like, if it works for them, it'll work for you. And I do look at the explore page, and there's a difference between using content that other people are putting out there as inspiration versus straight up plagiarizing. Here's how I can tell that someone's plagiarizing. Okay, complete hypothetical example. My client posts something in her group and yay, it gets engagement, blah, blah, blah. Then I see another group post pretty much almost word for word, maybe edited because maybe she dropped the post into ChatGPT and was like, hey, reword this. And it goes up in her group a couple of hours later. There is so much lack of authenticity there and so much distrust. Like, wow, you're not original. But ultimately, like, the audience of my client and the audience of someone that I see copying my client repeatedly, like, they're probably different. And also, if your audience does overlap, say, you're not offering the same thing, your messaging needs to be different. And so you're not going to be effective if you're copying the messaging and you're copying this. And like, how does that align with your offers? You have to understand your offers, your unique value proposition to be truly effective. And if you're just copying people, like, all of that gets lost. It all gets lost in your content. And when people start to notice, like, oh, so-and-so just put that out like last week. Like, when people start to notice that you're copying, like, you lose that trust with your audience, I tell people all the time, like, audience size doesn't matter. If you want 100,000 followers, you go, girl. When you lose the trust of your audience, like, what do you have? Whether your audience is 100 people or 100,000 people, if you don't have that trust, like, it's kind of like, I noticed that there is someone local to me also who has been copying other people in the area. Copying and buying followers, I feel like, fall under the same realm of like distrust. Like, how do you best turn off your audience? And again, whether your audience is 100 followers or 100,000 followers, like, you need that trust to garner engagement, to get the people to actually take the action that you want them to take, which is buy from you or work with you, right? Also, in the realm of duplicating content, Google really doesn't like duplicate content, so just don't. So how do you stand out instead? Well, one, like, do a competitor analysis. And when I do a competitor analysis for myself or for a client, like, I'm looking at, like, what are they doing that's getting engagement? Like, what are they talking about? Because if there is an overlap in the audience and I want to see that messaging, like, okay, well, they're really talking about goals. And I have my own view on goal setting and how to set strategic and measurable goals in marketing and all that kind of fun stuff. So maybe that's a theme that I can touch upon, but I'm going to put my own spin on it. You want to look at your competition to understand where the gaps in content are. Like, what are they not talking about? What can I talk about? Like, say you're a dentist. We're going to use this for an example. Say you're a dentist, and I feel like dentists are kind of a dime a dozen also. Also, fun fact, I really flippin' hate the dentist. Like, so much dental trauma from my youth. Throwing up on an oral surgeon when you're like 13 years old is, whew. But anyhow, we're talking about dentists here. And, maybe one dentist is talking about the value of your twice yearly cleanings. And another dentist is just talking about like Invisalign and all these cosmetic things. Like, okay, well, how do I, as dentist C, look at what these different dentists are talking about? What am I not talking about? Like, where are my content gaps that my audience might care about? And how do I fit those into my messaging? But also, is there something that's not being offered that needs to be offered? Like, how can I change up what I'm offering, not just talking about to my audience, but how can I change up what I'm offering my audience that maybe the competition is missing out on? You have to know your audience. You have to understand that even your competition, even dentist A and B and C, they may have different audiences. If one of them caters only to pediatrics and one of them focuses more on cosmetic dental stuff, and dentist B is like an all around, we do it all. Like, you're a one-stop shop, right? Family dentistry, like, bring your kids here, 3 appointments one day. You have to know your audience. You have to know your clients and what brings them to you. What is your unique selling point? And highlight that. And you can look at your competition. Absolutely, please do. Like, what are they also not doing that maybe you're doing and other people are doing, but they're missing out on the boat? There are lots of people out there who have high competition and who successfully differentiate themselves. And I'm going to use my client as an example. Like, she's a coach, and, business coaches, leadership coaches, they are a dime a dozen. Everyone calls himself a coach these days. I was actually just talking with a client about that because she has someone on her team who is a coach, more like a life coach. Her unique audience versus, the coach and co-working space around the corner, she helps people remove the overwhelm from their life and set up systems in their business so that they can have a better work-life balance. Like, that is what she prides herself on. And when you don't have that differentiator, when you don't fully understand what it is that your clients need from you, I feel like that's when copying happens. So how do you stay original? Because creating original content, I get it, it's exhausting. Well, one, like, repurpose your high performing content. I was just having a conversation earlier this week, the week that I'm recording this, probably like 2 weeks by the time this goes live, about how, like, repurposing strategies. Like, instead of just looking at, like, oh, I should repurpose that post from 3 months ago, like, you need to be a little more strategic about what you're repurposing and tweak things. Like, okay, well, this one got a lot of likes. Maybe if I change up the call to action, it'll still get good engagement, but it'll also drive them to do what I want them to do. One of the big themes, I think, for 2025 in social media, and I feel like I talked about this recently, is storytelling. Because here's the thing, and this is what we're seeing in social media all around, is that people want to interact with accounts that they connect with. So you have to incorporate that storytelling aspect on a more personal level to actually get that engagement that you want. And that's what differentiates you. You can copy a post on content calendar creation or things to post about in January. I'm using myself as an example here. But ultimately, and I stopped kind of doing these because I realized, yes, my audience cares about content ideas and hook ideas for Instagram Reels, but those people are not the people that are paying me to work with me. They're the people who are inspired by me and, they're great, but they're not necessarily my ideal audience in terms of ideal audience who is actually going to want to work with me. Those are the people that are not at the level of business who are ready to hire someone, whether it's for strategy, whether it's for consulting, or whether it's for done for you. So you really have to look at your analytics to understand what's garnering engagement, what's getting actual results. And now it's really, I know that it is really hard to tie specific posts back to ROI. You can with ManyChat, but so you have to look at your metrics to understand, like, okay, well, this reached a lot of people, and I'm really in that brand awareness stage, so I want to repurpose posts that got good reach or more views, whatever they're calling it these days. Honestly, like, Instagram has made so many changes in the last quarter that my head hurts. So here's the thing. Here's what we're going to go into 2025 doing. And I realize that we're a couple weeks into 2025 when this podcast actually goes live. We're going to stop flipping copying people. We are going to put our own unique spin on things. Like, we're going to stop jumping on trends for the sake of jumping on trends. And we're going to be original, look at our analytics, and tell our own story. We're going to build connections through that storytelling, through our unique selling point. And if you're not doing those things and you're still copying people, just stop. Just stop. Because again, like your audience might be there and they might be following you, but they're probably looking at your content being like, meh. Because when I see people copying people, because I see people copying clients of mine, I just lose a little bit more respect from them. And it's funny because I also have a friend who owns a boutique, and she has seen locally people copying her also. And she's just like, why? Like, as a business owner, we put so much time and effort into our content, into our business, into coming up with our unique selling propositions, selling value. Like, we put so much effort into that. And to see people copy it is just like, do your own shit. We're just going to leave it at that. Anyhow, I think I've ranted enough for today. But yeah, stop copying people. And if you are a big influencer copying another big influencer, like, just stop. Like, you have your audience. Your audience values you for you and what you offer. So if you're just like copying other people, like, I hope you lose 1 million followers. I really shouldn't wish ill on anyone, but I'm going to wish ill on people who copy other people, because I don't wish you success, because you're building your success in your business off the backs of someone else because you're not original. That is all for today. If you need a strategy to create that original content, to really understand your brand's voice, your brand's offer, I would love to chat. And I will have in February a workshop on repurposing content strategies, specifically with email and social media, because I feel like those two kind of go hand in hand. And I'm super excited about this workshop because I'm really leaning into email marketing in 2025. And I have a lot of good repurposing strategies to share to make content less overwhelming for all of us. Because if there's one thing that I hear so much from so many people, is that just like content is exhausting, and it doesn't need to be, I promise. So that's where we're at. Happy Monday, because it's going live on a Monday. And until next time, please leave a review. If there are any topics that you would love to hear on the podcast, I would love to hear from you. Please connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, all of places. And until next time, go forth, create amazing, unique content that stops the scroll.